Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Little Farmer's Farm with me, Guru Murphinda. Now, I went down to the allotment this morning at about 7:15. You'll see my brother there, Bilo. He's down at the allotment, wearing his camouflage jacket. You might not be able to see him because he's camouflaged up, but when I went down there, me of course, this morning, it was -2 degrees Celsius. It's the first frost day of the year. Now, that's not good because it's a good 3 weeks in Zone 8 where we are. It's a good 3 weeks before the frost day is supposed to start. In fact, it's more like 4 weeks. It's supposed to come in around about the 20th of October, but it's definitely early, as you'll see in this upcoming bit. Very cold, but got to crack on, haven't you? We're getting garlic in today. You'll see me brother Bilo down there getting the garlic in, giving you the old rundown on what to do with the Casablanca. He's just planting the Casablanca in today, but yeah, enjoy. I'll catch you at the end. All right, bye-bye, boys and girls. Hello. Now, enough about the frost. As you saw yesterday, we got our onions in, which were the Senshu and the electric being the red onions and Senshu being the Japanese overwintering onions. We're getting the bulbs into the ground, the allium bulbs into the ground at the moment. Yesterday, as I say, was the onions. I'm going to put some more onions in. I'm going to pick some more onions in and get those in. But those are the ones that we started off in the trays, and we've got the ones that we put in the ground as well if you look at the last video. But this morning we're going to be doing the garlic. Now the garlic that we've got, we haven't got any pink germador this time. Didn't do very well. Got very small bulbs, probably about an inch or two, not even two. About 1.5 inches was the maximum sort of width of the bulbs. Small cloves that we got from them, and they were flavourful, but they weren't big. Whereas the white Casablanca got to about 3 inches, and we got some nice fat cloves off them. So for me, that sort of extra bulk, if you like, of crop is important. You know, you want to get the maximised use out of your ground, and the best amount of food or bang for your buck. So we're using the Casablanca. Now it might be a bit of a fool's choice, that, because you've got the one variety, and if there's a particular pest that likes that variety, you'll get like the situation that they had in Ireland a couple of 100 years ago, where everything gets wiped out. But we're doubting that that's going to be the case. We've done the Casablanca really the last 4 years, and it's always done well for us. So we're sticking with what we know, or what we believe to be the best bet. So the best bet is the Casablanca. Now these were 3 packs for £5, and in these packs, I'll just get the one I've already opened, more or less. You get 3 bulbs of garlic, and generally speaking, you get about 12 cloves from each of the bulbs. So if that runs to course, you'll get 36 cloves from each pack. Yeah? So the cost on average about £1.80. So as I say, we get 3 for a £5. So that's £1.66.66 recurring, isn't it, or whatever. But yeah, we're going to be putting those in. I'm going to take those out of the bulb now and see how many cloves we've got. I'll mix them all together, and then I'll give you a tally up. So if we say that we've got 9 bulbs, I'll tell you how many cloves we've got out of that shortly. So I'm going to open all these up, take out the cloves. I'll do a bit of a a bit of a quality control on them first of all. All the really small ones I'm going to discard or plant elsewhere, but the ones that are going to be going in the ground, I'm going to be selecting a certain size of them, which I'll show you in a second, and try and get some uniformity in what we're going to be planting in. And then the results at the end come next year, come sort of April next year, when these are going to be ready for pulling up. April, May next year. There shouldn't be too many surprises. We should get some uniform bulbs, you know, all of a similar quality, similar size, and there you go. All right. So we're just going to be breaking off the papery outer of these. Lick your finger. It's easier to pull them off. Get the papery outer covering off, like you would do when you're doing normal sort of preparation for cooking, really. You expose your clothes underneath, get the paper off, see how many clothes you've got underneath, break them all away, and in they go to the little pots that I've got down there. Now at the bottom of your bulb, you have that, which is the basal plate, where the original roots and everything for the bulb came out. When you're taking off the garlic, make sure that you don't retain that basal plate, as you see there. You want to get that off. That's off. If you don't, the garlic will, the clove will struggle to send its roots out because of that thick plate that's on the bottom of it. So taking that basal plate off exposes the clove's own basal plate, its individual plate, and then allows them roots to come out. Okay. So what's so good about garlic? Garlic is actually a fantastic food, and historically been used in herbal treatments as a medicine. A lot of research over the last sort of 30, 40 years into garlic, the health benefits of garlic. Clinical research has shown that it's got a lot of potential as a natural remedy. Of course, nature's way is usually right, isn't it? You know, and the old adage that let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food applies very strongly to garlic. It's fantastic for blood pressure and cardiovascular issues. It can help in the sort of production of, or sort of the reduction of the calcification and the plaque that builds up within your arteries. Breaks it down, helps to remove it from the body. It's also been linked to cancer fighting, reduction of tumour sizes. There's studies that's going on about glucose regulation, reduction of blood glucose for diabetics like me. Certainly in animals, it's been proven that that's been the case, that garlic ingestion has worked, has proved positive results for that. I don't want to get into this too much because obviously this is just what I've found out from researching on the internet and what have you. But yeah, for blood, and not just the daft sites on the internet, the clinical study sites on the internet. Antimicrobial, it helps to prevent common cold and things like that, fights away infections, yeast infections like candida, fungal infections, and it's an all-around good egg, really. It's been mooted that it can cross the blood-brain barrier as well, and it can assist in alleviating the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. These are all still clinical studies and whatnot, and nothing's been proven 100%. But for things like turmeric, ginger, garlic, all of these kinds of rooty veggies and bulby veggies, they have chemical compounds within them that are quite powerful. What do they call them now? Volatile oils that can be beneficial. But with garlic in particular, you've got to sort of, if you're not used to garlic, try and introduce it gradually. It doesn't suit everybody, it doesn't suit everybody's sort of digestive system and physiology. So don't go jumping straight in, eating 2 or 3 bulbs, you know what I mean? Just introduce yourself to it slowly and gradually. And And yeah, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. There's been a lot of study about garlic over the last sort of 30, 40 years. And it's been around for 5,000 years and more as use, as recorded use, as a medical amendment, a dietary amendment. You know, the ancient Greeks used to give it to the athletes as a performance enhancer because it would assist in blood flow and things like that. The cardiovascular system was improved by it in the same way that beetroot improves it. Excuse me. I better start eating some more garlic, I think. Got a bit of a cold myself at the moment. It's not COVID. But yeah, do a bit of research around on garlic. It's got fantastic medicinal properties, and it's natural, especially the way that we're doing it now. Anyway, I've done my quality control, and we've got 42 decent sized bulbs, and these are the ones that I'm favouring size wise. And from that, we'll get probably about 12 of a similar size. From the 3 packs that we've had, so that's 9 bulbs of garlic, we've come out with 42 of the sort of first string size, which are these ones. We've got 39 of the B string, or second string. So those are the ones I'm favouring for planting out. And of the gash, or the stuff that we're not going to be planting out, there's these, and we're going to call those eaters. We're going to eat them now over the next week or so. Because even though these are sort of like seed garlics, it is garlic, basically. It's just that it's certified white Casablanca, what have you. As I say, they cost £1.66 if you get 5. Sorry, 3 for a fiver. So we've got 81 there. So 81 garlic, viable garlic cloves from 9 bulbs, which means essentially that each bulb has produced 9 viable cloves that we can plant out, which I don't think is too bad, is it? Especially considering we can eat those as well. Quite expensive, I suppose, to buy 9 bulbs of garlic for a fiver. So what I am going to do as well is I'm going to do a shop-bought comparison. So with shop-bought garlic, I'm going to plant that in as well as the seed garlic and see what the difference is. If it's not too drastic of a difference, then I'm going to use the shop-bought stuff. Because when you think about it, the shop-bought stuff is proven to be a grower, isn't it? It's been grown to produce garlic bulbs by the grower, by the commercial grower. So yeah, I don't see a problem with it, do you? We might be getting conned by all of this, all of these sort of seed suppliers. And we'll find out. So we'll be doing a comparison on that. But that's what we've done so far. So these ones are not going to be used. As you can see, really, they're too itty-bitty. They're like weaklings, really. You find these towards the centre of the bulb, where the stem grows. Not too many of them there. There's probably about 30, but they're edible, so we're going to eat them. We're not going to waste them. All the paper that we've pulled off from it, that's going to go into the compost. Not a great deal. It's not going to bulk anything out, but you don't waste things. You put them to use. 81 there. I've also found, I must have bought 5, so I've got some more. I've got those there, and I've got some more over there. So by that rationale, we should have about 120 viable garlics. So I'm going to crack on with that and then move on and get them planted out. I'm going to do it in the same way as we did the onions yesterday. Look it up. So this is the bed that we're going to be using. This is an 8 feet by 4 feet wide sectional bed. It's not a raised bed. Now people confuse these with raised beds. It's a sectional bed. If it was 2 feet or higher, it would be a raised bed, but it isn't. It's 15 inches. So it's 7 inches, 8 inches, 9 inches short of being a raised bed. That's a raised bed over there with the pallet collars. Well, that's a sectional bed. It's a section of land that's been raised. And it is raised, but it's in a section. It's not strictly speaking a raised bed. It's a section bed. And in that section bed, we've got beetroots growing on. They'll be ready hopefully in about 6 or 8 weeks, and they've got the Swiss chard in here that's going to be coming up over winter. That should still be in the ground come springtime and into summer. It'll grow slowly. It's cold hardy, frost hardy. Because the garlic needs a frost to split over winter, it'll survive. Come January, February time is when the splitting will occur, so the clove will split and reproduce itself and turn into 12 to 15 cloves, hopefully. Now, if we're going off the ones that we've just done, it's about 10 cloves, viable, good-sized cloves per bulb. So we're going to be getting into the 16, so 2 rows of 8 there, and here we'll be getting 3 rows of 8, so in total we're going to get 40 cloves in the ground, and hopefully, if we're really lucky, we'll get 40 bulbs. We won't get 40 bulbs, we'll lose a few. We'll lose on average about 20%. But to give them the best chance, we're going to amend that soil before we plant them in, and we're going to be putting some nutrition into that soil. That's already been used twice this year for growing beets at the beginning of the year, and then potatoes that went in sort of like April, May. I think the potatoes went into here. They were sort of a later planting of potatoes, so it's already had 2 crops out of it this year, and it's going to have a third of the garlic and what we've already got growing in the bed. So we've got enough room really there for, as I say, 2 rows of 8 and 3 rows of 8, giving us 40 that are going to be going in there. I'm going to be adding into that bone meal to assist with the root development of the bulbs, and also garlic likes nitrogen in the same way that onions like nitrogen. So we're going to be adding nitrogen in the form of 6X, which is well rotted farmyard manure, concentrated farmyard manure. We're going to be putting that in, top dressing, and the bone meal, and then we're going to work in about 3 or 4 inches into the soil, work that into the soil, these amendments, and then we're going to get the garlic planted in there. There's a good liberal sprinkling of bone meal gone on there, because I had a little bit left. I had about 1 inch left in the tub of bone meal, which was this stuff. Now that's empty now. It's going to be filled in a bit, and I'll show you what with. But there's the bone meal that's gone onto the bed. Because I had a little bit left over, I've just thought I'll give a treat to the Swiss chard as well. Next, it'll be going on the 6X, which is the high nitrogen 6X farmyard manure concentrated stuff. You really don't need too much of that. I think for each, there's probably 3 square meters worth of soil that we're going to be planting into today. So it's going to be sort of like a handful per square meter. So there's only going to be 3 handfuls going on there, but yeah, that's going to be mixed in to a depth of about 3 or 4 inches with the hand fork that I'm going to be using. I usually use the rake. I use the rake for doing that one, but because of the sort of closeness of the other plants, I don't want to take a chance of disturbing them, so I'm going to hand fork that in along with the 6X. So that's the next step. Okay, so there's a few handfuls of the 6X been crumbled over the surface there. It's going to be worked in now with the fork. So the fork is 5 inches. The sort of teeth on the fork is 5 inches. And what we'll do is we'll just gently work all that in to the soil. Work it through so that way we've got 4 or 5 inch depth of nutrient rich growing medium to play with. In between my chards, I'm just going to leave that and let the weather wash that in. But yeah, the surface is just going to be worked over like this, working it into the soil, getting the nitrogen rich manure in there along with the root assistance of the bone meal. Okay, leave me to that for a minute. So the bone meal and manure has been worked into the soil now and turned into about 4 or 5 inches deep. We turn that over. All I do now basically is, using the old yard brush, I even out the soil. So gently push it and pull it, and then all your high points and your low points are evened out. Just gently brush over, because I want to get it quite flat before planting. This is what I do. I did the same thing yesterday with the onions, if you saw. So it's a good stiff old yard brush that you work over the soil. To give a flat topsoil tilled. As I say, any high points are taken down, any low points are filled, and it's dead easy. Not easy to film like with one hand, but that's what we do. And it's for the aesthetics as well, as I say. It looks nicer, neater, if it's not all ridged up. You do want some sort of flat uniformity, if you can get it. Okay. Now all that remains there is to mark out where we're going to be putting. You get these little subterranean leaves, weeds and whatever that come up. These big lumps, you can sort of sprinkle them down if you like. You can spend all day doing that if you want, but it doesn't really matter. As long as it's not too lumpy and bumpy and stony, then you're going to be okay. Alright, so that's nice and flat now-ish. We're going to be putting some rows in there. As I say, we're going to get 2 rows. We could potentially fit in 3 rows there, but I'll measure the distance. You want 8 inches between them, and I want 8 inches between the actual garlic and the other crops that are in there, so that we can get the hoe in between and get rid of the weeds, and also it gives enough room for ventilation, and it prevents, or helps to prevent, leaf rust and other sort of molds and viruses and stuff like that that can affect your alliums. So yeah, we're going to mark that out now. Okay, so we've got 6 rows of 8, which gives us 48 planting points for our Casablanca overwintering garlic in there. So as you can see, the holes are equally spaced, so we'll have nice neat rows. It'll hopefully look presentable by the end of it. Plus the spacings are probably as sort of packed in as I'd want them, really, between 6 and 7 inches between them. Now you are supposed to leave officially about 8 inches between them, but this is a quite sunny site. There's a lot of airflow that's going to be coming through here. We've left a decent amount of space between the rows. There's about a foot between the rows, so I think they're going to be fine in there. They're not going to be overplanted. They should be okay. So that's what we're going to be doing next. So these are going to be going in bums down and snouts up. Bum, snout. As you can see, the thick plate, the sort of master plate for the whole bulb, has been taken off, exposing the individual cloves plates. And all we do there is push it down. It's the rule of thumb, thumb's depth down, which is around about 6 centimetres. If you come across any lumpy bumpy bits, take them out. But that's all you're doing. You're pushing those in there. Okay. And I'll be doing that all the way along until we've done the 48. Alright, so they're all in. Just go around and make sure that you've not you've not missed a hole out. Because then you'll be scratching your head thinking, oh, why's that one not come up, you know. It's because there wasn't one in. But we're double checking there to see that each hole has got a white snout poking out of it, which they all have. All we do then is basically cover them over. Now, because they're about an inch below the surface of the ground, I don't need to top it up with any extra compost. The nutrition in the form of the bone meal and the manure is in the top sort of 4 to 5 inches. That'll then continue to wash down over the next few months, get down to where the roots need it, and feed the plant, you know. So it shouldn't particularly this year, certainly up until February time next year, shouldn't particularly need any more feed. So I'm just going to, as I say, we're going to dust over those now. All we're doing is dusting them over, give them a bit of a pat, dust them over, give them a bit of a pat. We've marked, as you can see, exactly where the rows are going on both sides. Give them a bit of a gentle pat. Continue on doing that all the way across, and job's a good one. You're done, you're dusted, happy days. Alright, so you've levelled it off more or less, you've marked out where your rows are going to be. It's going to rain later, so I don't need to particularly do this, but you can give them a bit of a watering. Any little pin weeds. All you need to do from now on really is once a week spend a couple of minutes just coming down and pricking out any weeds that appear. But because it's going to rain later, this is not really necessary, like, you know, but you would water them in. If you weren't due rain for a day or two, give them a good watering in, and just leave them. They'll activate themselves. What we're trying to do at this stage in the game is get those roots started off over the next few months, so that the root system is developing through winter. You'll get some small shoots coming up, probably before winter kicks in earnest. Around about November time, you'll see small shoots sticking up. They will grow, but they will grow very slowly over the winter months. The hardy, they'll withstand the snow and the frost, as long as it doesn't get too severe, you know, like -20 and what have you, -15. I think they'll withstand about -8 with no real problems, but you can always sort of cover them up with fleece. You can fleece them over if it gets really cold, which we'll be doing if it does get really cold. We'll be throwing fleece over everything, just to keep those icy winds off them. And that's basically it. As I say, come down once a week, spend a couple of minutes just picking out the little pin weeds that are always popping through. You know, just keep on top of them. Those little tiny weeds before they start to grow into something a bit more difficult to control. I'll just spend a minute or two each time I come down, having a bit of a pluck. That might be a beat, so we'll leave that for the time being. And that's it. Yes, we've got more garlic to plant, but that's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing exactly the same process to plant up the rest of the garlic in the ground. So it's going to be going in the further beds, just to fill a few gaps really, and get some use out of the beds. More onions to go in. I'm not going to fertilise that because I remember last year I did put lots of 6X in that. So yeah, I'm just going to put the garlic in there and the onions, perhaps just onions maybe in there this year. Fill that up with onions, and then, you know, re-manure it, re-enrich it next year, probably April time, when the April-May time. Actually, May into June really. May into June, probably June. So we're going to be doing that again in June, reinvigorating that, because that's probably going to be having brassica in it. So there'll be a lot more nitrogen once going back into that and bone meal. But we'll do that in June, and we'll get a later crop of the brassicas. All this stuff will be ready for brassicas early on, March time, the other beds. So we're going to be successionally doing the brassicas as land becomes free. See, we've got all these locations here where potentially we can put in the alliums. Just get back inside here. I think we've got some left there. Still a load left over there. I've got about, altogether there was 146 bulbs, so I've got 98 left, really, to plant. Yeah, so the onions and the garlic, well, the garlic that I've just put in there, that'll be ready for coming out in June. Back end of May into June. You know, same with the onions. So you've got to be mindful of that, really. You can't take up all your beds with the onions and the garlic, because there'll be stuff like broad beans that'll be going in February. You'll need space for that. You'll need space for the beans and the peas. But because we're going to be successionally growing that kind of thing, we can leave the beds with the onions and garlic in for about 3 months into the growing season, and then that'll be ready for all pulling out in June. As I say, we'll be starting off the peas, the beans, and all the rest of it, and the brassicas. Oh yeah, have you seen the sign? So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. You've got to be mindful of that. So when those are ready for coming out, you need something for going in. You don't want to be hanging about waiting for the ground to open up. That's Magical Michael next door, so I'm going to go and have a brew with him now. Right, keep growing with your heads down. Remember, we love you all, and if I don't see you through the week, I'll see you through the window. This is Murphinda signing out. Take care of each other and yourselves. All right, bye-bye. Have a good week if I don't see you tomorrow. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Couple of garlic tips for overwintering. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode on the Sunday the 27th, where we'll be discussing further feeds for all your plants next year. Now's the time to harvest, if you've got it, harvest the comfrey. So we're going to be harvesting and producing comfrey tea tomorrow, and also we're going to be taking some leaves from the rhubarb to use as a natural insecticide next time. And also we're going to be looking at nettle tea. So there's nettle tea, comfrey tea, and rhubarb leaf tea. They'll all be discussed tomorrow, and we'll show you the ways of creating it. All right. As I say, hope you enjoyed it. If I don't see you through the week, I'll see you through the window. And we love you all. Bye-bye now, boys and girls. Have a good one.